A while back at this point, I started up this YouTube short series, going over every Smash character's hypothetical best secondary. Uploading episode 1 of that series was my Icarus moment. This was a fun suggestion from a friend of mine on a new type of content I could post. It'd be something I enjoyed talking about, and shorts are typically pretty light to make. I now no longer take suggestions from that friend. From the upload of that first episode till now, I cannot post on this godforsaken channel without getting people asking me to tell them Ganon's best secondary, or Ridley's best secondary. So, fuck it, we're back. That's right, we're going over all 90 characters in this game and selecting one character each that would best clear up their weaknesses in terms of their matchups. But before we get into it, I need to clear something up. My choices here aren't going to be 100% fully accurate, and this is for a number of reasons. But the main thing is, it'd get really boring just saying the names Steve, Game & Watch, and Aegis into a mic for around an hour. I don't want to post that, and you don't want to watch that. So, if I notice I'm recommending a character a bit too much, I'll probably swap it up here and there for a less commonly suggested answer. Secondly, my primary resource for character matchups are from top player matchup charts posted online, alongside common results from matchups that I notice. If I can't find a prominent matchup chart and common opinions, I'll look at each character's Discord and ask questions there. Okay, we're ready? Let's start with
Mario!
Mario's best secondary on paper is Aegis, the secondary choice of Snow. Off to a good start. I wasn't immediately wrong in the original series. Mario struggles mostly with sword fighters. You know, your Clouds, Corins, and Lucinas, alongside Ice Climbers, who I forgot to mention last time. This is mostly due to just his stubby range. These characters outrange him and can make him have to work hard for any simple opening. Or, in the case of Ice Climbers, Mario just doesn't have the best tools to separate Nana and Popo. Another good choice for this would be Joker, the secondary choice of Dominator. Both of these options cover the same thing, it's just Joker is typically seen as harder to pick up, and ease of learning is factored into this. What's also normally factored in is the Ditto. I don't like to recommend it. I know a lot of character mains hate Ditto matchups for their characters, but hey, if you don't want that, then Joker is the best answer for you.
DonkeyKong!
For DK, I recommend Cloud. DK's worst matchups are commonly seen to be Game & Watch, Sora, and Palutena. Cloud is one of the best answers to Game & Watch in this meta, and does fine into the other two mentioned, as much as I hate to admit it. Can you tell I don't think Cloud is a top tier? The only prominent DK main with a secondary is Rorikusu, who goes Falco, which misses out on the Game & Watch matchup from what I can see. DonkeyKong also used to have a secondary Rob, but it misses out on the same thing. The only DK secondary I've actually seen cover all of their problem matchups is Phantom with Steve, but that gets into murky waters. When are you going DK in that case outside of just Cloud? Who's really the secondary then?
Link!
My answer for Link is Diddy Kong, who covers matchups like Aegis, Lucina, and Pikachu for the Hero of the Wild. Let's go, I gotta fight that time! Alongside that, they also have very similar item tech, so your muscle memory on one isn't wasted on the other. No prominent Link mains have a secondary, unless you want to maybe stretch our definition a little bit and say that Gluttony co-maining Link and Wario counts, but I think that's a little bit of a technicality right now. But even still, Diddy Kong theoretically covers the characters better than Wario. Though Wario does oddly work still? Fuck it, man, I don't know, just choose whether you like garlic or bananas more.
Samus!
Samus's best secondary in my eyes is Meta Knight, the secondary of choice for top North American Samus main, Icy Mist. In her matchup chart, she has Samus's worst matchups as Olimar, Duck Hunt, Min Min, and a few others. Meta Knight is one of the best answers to Min Min in this game, and according to Show, goes even with Aegis and beats Olimar. While it may not cover some weak points like Steve and Fox, it's still one of the best answers you're gonna get. Another example would be Yaris Cloud, which can cover Steve and Olimar, but notably misses Aegis and Min Min. Either way, you're missing out on some matchups, so it's up to you to decide which ones are more important to cover and which character you find more fun.
Kirby!
Kirby's our first example of there being too much shit to cover. Congrats! Almost any matchup where your opponent doesn't want to approach you is a nightmare for Kirby still. He doesn't have the necessary tools to force interactions, and worst of all, there's no top Kirby mains who have a secondary for me to base this off of. In the initial series, I said Game & Watch as a catch-all, but nowadays I think I'd actually go for Aegis. The main matchups I'm looking to cover here are Sonic, Steve, and Snake, which is like asking McDonald's for a 5-star full-course steak dinner, which means I can't give some fuck-ass answer like Villager here. Aegis has the best overall spread for these characters, with one of the best Sonic matchups in the game, and they go even-ish into Steve and Snake from what I can gather. Even with how much better Kirby seem to be nowadays, it's always matchups like these that are gonna prove why the pink puffball isn't exactly so great.
Fox!
Fox's best secondary on paper is Sephiroth. Fox is weird in that he's a top-tier character who still has some of the worst matchups in said tier. having debatably -2 matchups into the likes of Game & Watch, Steve, Pikachu, Luigi, and Ice Climbers. Sephiroth is amazing into both Luigi and Ice Climbers, does alright into Game & Watch and Steve, and might do fine into Pikachu. I see a lot of conflicting answers on that one. Still though, at worst, 4 out of 5 isn't bad. As for the top Fox mains with secondaries, there's Kananabe, who's opted for Min Min, which to my knowledge is actually a really good answer for most of these matchups, just not doing as well as you'd hope into Pikachu and Game & Watch. Then there's Paisetiman, who's opted for Diddy Kong. And quite frankly, I couldn't think of a worse answer. Doesn't cover Steve, doesn't cover Ice Climbers, probably doesn't even cover Pikachu that well. Goes like even with Game & Watch and Luigi. I don't know, man.
Pikachu!
In the initial short that covered Pikachu, I said it was Pit, due to covering the Game & Watch matchup, which is still Pikachu's worst matchup, alongside being pretty decent into Pac-Man and Ness, and being Shiny Mark's old secondary. However, I got a lot of people commenting saying that Shiny Mark and Esam said it's either Cloud or Aegis, and I don't have a reason to disagree. From this moment on in the series, Pikachu's best secondary is... Wait, what the fuck? How did you get in here? Who are you? What are you doing?
Yeah, what were those matchups you mentioned? Pac-Man, Ness, and Game & Watch?
Yeah, no, Pit wins all of them. Like, pretty definitively. Mia even put Pit as a -2 and is also one of his least favorite matchups. Yeah, no, this character's fucking broken. If you disagree, you're just stupid. Everyone who kept trying to say, oh, you should play Cloud or Aegis because he's said so. Who the fuck cares? He's bald. Would you listen to a bald guy? Fuck you. This character's top 10, by the way.
Luigi!
Are they gone? Am I safe? Wait, let me check. Captain Falcon is low tier. Okay, I think she's gone. Luigi's answer is Roy. Your worst matchups are Cloud, Sephiroth, Rosaluma, and Belmonts. Roy simply goes even or better with every character there, alongside clearing up some other problematic matchups like Sonic. And luckily has a rather easy learning curve to picking them up as a secondary, hence why every mid-level swordy player is picking them up. The only top Luigi main with a secondary is Yamanaction, who's mostly just a Steve player nowadays, but also got started being a Roy and Luigi co-main. We have also started to see Raru picking up secondaries. For example, they've been testing out Min Min, Kazuya, and DonkeyKong, but I don't know how serious any of these are.
Ness!
Ness's best secondary on paper is Joker. Ness is another short-range character who struggles with swordies like Cloud, Aegis, and Corrin. As such, any character who can really cover that for him is a good bet. I simply think Joker does the best into the most common swordies, that being Aegis and Cloud. In the short initially covering Ness, I did say Diddy Kong, citing Beastly as an example, but considering I answered Diddy Kong for a link here, I'll just go Joker for now. The only Ness main with an active secondary is Syrup, who co-mains Steve and Ness, but Steve misses out on the Cloud matchup. So much so that Syrup opts for Ness in the Cloud matchup. Did you know that, guys? Did you know Syrup beat Cloud with Ness?
Captain Falcon!
Out of fear for my safety, I'm yet again going to answer that Captain Falcon's best secondary is Pit, or more specifically, Dark Pit. Falcon's worst matchups are Game & Watch and Sonic, with Falcon vs Sonic being noted as the spawn of Give Up, the matchup is unwinnable. Dark Pit having good disjoints, exceptional combo gain, and a great projectile and arrow allows him to play neutral easier than most characters into Game & Watch and Sonic. The only Captain Falcon main with a secondary that comes to mind is Sir Dank, who opted for Pit. Either of the two echoes here work, I just personally see Dark Pit as more specialized to deal with the two matchups listed.
Jigglypuff!
And my answer here is still Fox. Fox is one of the few characters in this game to have a winning Sonic matchup, and also beats ZSS harder than my dad beats me after one too many drinks. The only top Jigglypuff main with a secondary is Base Mage, which used to be Fox, but Base Mage swapped over to Steve, which... I'm sorry, that's just an objectively worse secondary here in every way. Steve has a very hard matchup into Zero Suit, being either even or straight up losing for the blocky menace, and is one of the worst answers to Sonic you can find out of the top tier characters. I get that some people would argue that Steve does better into Sonic and ZSS than Jigglypuff does, but when you had an option that worked way better, it simply makes no sense to me. You're actively choosing to play a character that helps less into your problem matchups in return for them just being a better character, but you're completely missing the point of trying to counterpick. This is in no disrespect to Base Mage, by the way. He could probably 3-0 me without ever looking at the game, but I just don't get it. Anyways, that's the first row of the roster done, and I think that's where we're going to end off this first video. Of course, this was a lot of recovering the shorts, but I'm glad I got to talk much more in depth about each character here than I ever would have gotten to in this once-a-day format. And I got to correct a few mistakes that I made along the way in the first run-through of this. If you disagree with any of my picks, let me know in the comments. And big shoutouts to the channel members, Luminosity, Linksico, and Yoko Soko. If you want to support the channel, consider becoming a member. That's all for now. See y'all when we cover the second row of the roster, featuring such winners as Bowser and Pichu. God save me.
cocaine, you're such a 90 more candy cane, cold cake, cold